first of all, we'll start with your name, age, and how you identify.
My name is Loretta Robertson. I'm 71 years of age and I identify as a straight woman.
Fab. Second question is, how was being queer perceived when you were growing up?
I grew up as a child and into my teens. Gay, queer, lesbian was not anything I had ever heard. It was not anything that was discussed. You just didn't know anything about it. My first encounter was someone who was gay was when I started nursing at the age of 17 and a half. But I didn't know that that's what it meant. I just knew that the man that I was looking at was just a bit different from my dad, just in his mannerisms, the way he spoke. And to be honest, he was quite a very gentle person. He was lovely. But there was something about him that just was a wee bit different from what I would class as normal back then, what I had been brought up with. But I had no idea what that meant and didn't really kind of catch on to what it meant till I was about 19. Which, when you look back on now, is quite scary, really. That you were never educated at school in anything. I wasn't educated in sex education, in health education, any type of education like that was just not talked about. And as I went on in my life, I realised that people who were gay, were homosexual, were classed as breaking the law and could go to jail for loving somebody of the same sex, which I found quite horrifying at the time. But that was how life was back then. And people who were gay and were openly gay, I don't mean sexually, I just mean openly gay, they dressed a bit more flamboyant in that time. That was their way of identifying themselves. They would be picked on, bullied, hit, ridiculed. This went on, and this was classed as the norm back in my day. This was the norm for people of that ilk who would want to be having anything to do with anybody that was queer. And that was what I grew up with.
Out of your 4 children, 3 of them are queer. What was it like to raise queer kids in that time?
Well, obviously I carry a gene that's very strong because it's not only my kids, it's passed on to my grandkids as well. So it was a bit frightening, I would say. My oldest son, who was 17 and a half, around about then, I was the one that approached him and asked him straight out, was he gay? He got really quite upset and thought that I was going to be angry or I was going to be disappointed or I was going to be upset. And I just reassured him that none of that was going to happen. I just needed to know the truth. So the truth came out, and yes, he was gay. And I must say my heart sank a bit, not because he was gay, but I was really frightened for him because it was still against the law back then. And that was frightening. It was the time when HIV and AIDS was just being talked about on the television, on the news, and it was all blamed on the homosexual community. It was their fault. They carried this terrible disease. They could pass it on to people just by walking past you and breathing on you, and all these myths came out, all the ways that HIV would be passed on. It was a bit frightening, I would imagine, for healthcare workers at that time because nobody knew a lot about it. They knew that it could be passed on through body fluids. So if you're nursing somebody, that they have a chance of that happening. So I could understand why nurses, doctors, people like that were a bit scared. But the general public did not need to be as frantic as they were, and it was frantic. So my biggest worry for my son then was that he could contract some disease that would kill him. So I thought, being, a good mum and having a bit of medical knowledge, I would put him down, sit him down, have a chat with him, try and explain how you would have to keep yourself safe, you'd have to be careful. I says, and after I'd given him my spiel and felt quite proud of myself, I said, he proceeded to tell me that he knew all about it. He worked for a charity and he was handing out condoms and information and such like in Glasgow. I can't remember the name of the voluntary company, the voluntary people that he worked with. But he was very knowledgeable. He was more knowledgeable on HIV and AIDS than I was at that time. So that kind of made me feel a bit better, because I realised, and he told me he would be very careful. He wasn't out to look for any relationships at that point. He just wanted to enjoy the kind of gay scene. So after, maybe about a year, when he was kind of happy in his own skin and knew who he was and was going out and about and meeting people and having a nice time, I decided, well, you're over 18 now, you're going into pubs, you're going into places where, you will meet people, and there could be some people who would maybe take advantage of a young guy. I said, so being a good mum, I says, as I always thought I was, I got myself dressed up and off we went. I says, and him and I used to go to the karaoke in the karaoke bar in Glasgow, and I would sing and we would have a nice wee drink and we would chat to all his friends. I says, and I got to know quite a lot of people, and the sort of scare of this gay community, what I was perceived for my son, I says, was nothing like I thought it was going to be. In fact, it was absolutely fabulous, and I met really a lot of people, had a lot of good friends, and it really opened my eyes to, this is not the scary world it's made out to be. My daughter, she came out at about 15, my oldest daughter, and she had a nice girlfriend for quite a while. Then that kind of disappeared, and then she had a boyfriend. And suddenly I was thinking, oh, wait a minute here, where are we going now? So her and I had the wee chat as well, and she told me she liked boys as well as girls. So I thought, oh well, okay then. And then she met a lad that she kind of fell for, and she fell pregnant, and proceeded to carry on and have my granddaughter, who is my wee best friend. So that was her. It didn't particularly bother me. It bothered other people when I would say my daughter was bisexual. I said, they would look at me and go, oh, that's a shame. And I used to think, that's it. What's shameful about it? It's not a shame, it's not a shame. She's happy, I'm happy. There's nothing shameful about it. My youngest daughter, I said, she was gay as well. So she came out a wee bit younger, about 14. Because she had a brother and a sister ahead of her who had gone down that path and hadn't been shouted at and made to feel as if they were less than human or anything else, or made to feel that they had to leave home or they weren't loved and such like. So she was quite happy to tell me that she was gay. And I thought, well, there we are, I've got the full set. I've got the gay son, the straight son, the bisexual daughter, and the gay daughter. And then, 22 years later, I get the granddaughter, who turns out to be gay as well. I said, so now I've got her, and I've got a step-grandson, who doesn't really, he wasn't really sure whether he felt male, female, felt nothing, but he's now kind of decided, I think, that he's actually gay. So we'll wait and see how that one turns out. But, whatever way it turns out, doesn't matter. He's ours, and that's all that matters. My children are very welcome in my home, all my children. I don't care what my children are. Being gay doesn't make any difference. Being bisexual, queer, no difference, straight, doesn't matter. They're my kids, I love them all, and that to me is all that matters. I can't understand parents who cannot see past their child being gay. I can't understand that. And putting them out on the street, just ostracising them for the family and not having anything to do with them. I can't imagine not seeing my kids. That would break my heart. I says, we are what we are, and we just, we're all made different, and we just all have to learn to live with each other.
Good. What do you hope the future holds for queer individuals, including your grandchildren, and any worries that you have for the future?
Well, I'd like to think the future would be better than what the past has been. I would like to think that people are allowed to live their life the way they want to live their life, as long as they're not doing it anybody else any harm. I don't see where it matters who you love. Doesn't make any difference. You've got now couples who are two mums, two dads. They have kids, they adopt kids, they have surrogate kids. You have all this different stuff going on, and yeah, it might be hard to try and explain to your kids as they're growing up. This is how you were conceived, and this is how we found you. This is how we got you. This is where you came from. I says, but at the end of the day, if you tell them young enough and you give them enough love and attention, they'll know they're loved and they'll know they were wanted, and that's all that matters. That's really all that matters. I'd like to think that people would be allowed to live their lives, left in peace, not bullied, not ridiculed, not made to feel different for the rest of us, not passed over for jobs because their gender, which happens a lot now, and I've seen it in my own work when I worked. I'd like to think that they could just live a happy life. And I don't want to use the word be accepted, because they shouldn't be unaccepted in the first place. But a lot of people don't accept that somebody's different. But at the end of the day, we're all a bit queer. We're all different. We all have different wee traits, different wee things that we like to do, we don't like to do. So, when I was young, somebody being queer just meant they were a bit funny, just a wee bit. It did not mean what it means nowadays. So, I found it quite a strange word to begin with when it was getting used. I found it a strange word because to me it just meant somebody just wasn't quite right. They were a wee bit different. But we're all a bit different. And, we just have to learn to live with each other. There's enough going on in the world without us all hating each other for gender. So I just hope that they have a happy life. I won't be here to see them growing into 30s and 40s, and I'll be well gone by then. So it upsets me to think I won't be here till they come and give me their worries and for me to give them a cuddle and tell them everything will be alright. But I'm sure they'll look after each other, so that's all that matters.
Not you.
Not you.